Good afternoon. Happy Savage Saturday, Keepers of the Cash. Gary V, the Casual Comic Guy here, and we're here with Savage Saturday Comic Review, episode 137. And today we're going to look at a tale in the pages of Savage Tales featuring Conan the Barbarian, issue number 2. And no, it's not the Conan tale, Red Nails, which was a multi-issue arc and one of the best adaptations ever done. But we're going to concern ourselves with a story called Dark Tomorrow, which takes place obviously in the story in a setting in the future after an apocalypse has happened. And these kind of tales are always fun for me. I don't know why, because they always have a common theme, right? And I call them the Logan's Run stories. So one of my favorites, of course, Logan's Run, absolutely spectacular. But what they do is there's a society that sets up that believes itself to be more deserving and more elite than others that are left over from an apocalypse. And therefore, it's their job to make what they consider the less fortunate serve them and make their life more comfortable. And then they always revert back to a form of savagery while hiding under the disguise of civilization. So let's get to our tale. It's called Dark Tomorrow. As I do, I will leave everything over here. And let's take a quick look at the credits. So it's not telling me. I'm gonna have to see after. We'll say it on the bottom, but I think it's Jerry Conway and oh goodness, and Gray Morrow. So those are the creators of this tale. So as our tale begins, and I will give you the first 2-page spread before I put it up there. But as you can see, fantastic art. So, it says time. All the time in the world. How they all laughed when scientists predicted that the ecological disaster would soon strike the planet Earth. Time. There was plenty of time to repair the rapidly decaying environment, or so they thought. Unfortunately, time ran out, and a generation of children were born into a world gone quickly mad. And then we get to our first panel where there's guys set up to duel, and you see the moderator between them. He's like, you know the rules of combat trial, a trial of honor, which only one may survive. Take your places, men, and on my word, strike. And then you see people in the crowd, they're kind of betting. He says, my money rests on Carl Linders. See the power in those limbs? And another person saying, no, he's a bad one. Did you notice how slowly he rose to the man's challenge? No, there's not a single bone of honor in Linders' frame. We go down to our next panel where combat's about to begin. It says, time. Surprising how little time it took the plague to wipe out all normal plant life in North America. And then you see the one guy attacking Carl Linders say, move, you bloody fool. I've no time to dance with you. Back to panel description. It says, time. How little time it took for the social order to constantly collapse like the remains of a broken dream, and for a new order to take its place. And then you see the men battling again. And the one guy saying, at last, a manly thrust. You surprised me, Linders. And then we're on to our next page where the battle is ongoing. And our descriptive text says, an order based on honor, a society designed to kill off as many of the world's 8 billion inhabitants as quickly as possible. Then we go back to the dialogue of our characters. Good man, good. You're not a coward I took you for. And you see the moderator saying, careful, Carl Linders. Remember, strike to kill. Then back to the paragraph description. It says, how easy it was to accept this new madness, to obey the codes of chivalry and false courtesy, to survive like a polite animal. And you see a woman looking on as Carl Linders fights the guy that he's got to defend his honor against. And you have a panel of her thinking. It says, perhaps I should be worried about how can I be. It's Carl's duty to battle this man, for sake of honor, and it's mine as his chambermaid to wait for him, or his killer. And back to panel description, it says, to survive in any form. And so now you strike Carl Linders, you strike and counter-strike, pacing yourself, timing your moves and strokes like a practiced dancer. And the strain grows great, and you begin to wonder what purpose this battle serves. So again, in all these post-apocalyptic stories, everything goes back to trials of honor and fate, just designs to make people kill each other off and keep lessening the population of the society that they're in, which is always, I thought, a funny thing for me, right? You're building a society and telling people it's for their own preservation while setting up rules that continually deplete that society. All right. So, next page. Back to descriptive text, and it says, and then you wonder no more. And the man, Carl Linders, strikes his sword through the belly of his opponent and says, all the strength drains from your body, leaving your muscles flaccid and limp. Your head spins, and you barely hear the monitors gushing congratulations. So, a bunch of people just congratulating him on striking down and killing another man. And the moderator's like, excellent, excellent, a truly brilliant combat, Linders. Your honor remains untarnished. And Linders is looking down, and he says, all of this? Because he jostled me on a transit step? No, tell me it's just a dream. And you have the woman next to him going, Carl. And back to the moderator speaking, he says, no dream, just our way, as you've been taught in your class periods. Only by retaining honor do we maintain dignity. Now, if you'll come with us, arrangements for exile will be made. And he's like, no. Then we go back to descriptive text. Now you remember, don't you, Carl? You remember the traditional laws that demand the victor be exiled from the cities to the swamps. Exiled for the victor is deemed antisocial. And back to the moderator, he says, what? I'm afraid I don't understand. And to which Carl says, I'm not going with you. Not for this, not for something like this. And the moderator points and says, I'm afraid that's quite impossible. You know the law, friends. Take him. And Carl says, first, take my sword. And he runs that moderator through. And you just see the moderator, Linders, and he collapses. And Linders throws his cape over the head of the other ones and makes fast his escape with the woman in tow. And says, well thought, action took your hand and moved it. Now again, there's no time for thinking. There's only time for flight. And you see a couple people in the crowd saying, see, it's as I thought. Linders is a coward, a dishonorable coward. Back to descriptive text, and it says, if you heard her words, perhaps you would have been angered, Carl. Or perhaps you would have been sad. Sad, for her words are true. And we'll show you these pages as I've been showing them over there. And again, I like bringing these tales on to you guys because I'm sure a lot of you have never heard of this story. And not that they're stories you can't live without, but they're stories that are still fun. They're still good. They had great creative teams on them, and they shouldn't be lost to time. But let's move on. Back to descriptive text. You have Carl Linders and a woman running. It says, yet, it's not fear that drives you, but a personal refusal to believe you've a debt to be paid. A debt to the society in which you live, to the men and women who are your fellows. For each instant that you live is a burden on their lives, and only an acceptance of your responsibility to them. Do you accept your responsibility to yourself? Yet, you don't think of that. You think only of the breath in your chest, the life in your veins, and you run. And you run. Now, the canvas of our story takes on a new aspect, and we switch to a different scene. As we leave Carl and the woman running, we switch to a swampy area behind a grate with an old man and a young man conversing. It says, now the canvas of our story takes on a new aspect, as we shift our attention to the swamps outside the city, to the dark, ill-lit caverns in which the Wets live, and to one particular Wet named Damien Linders. And so obviously setting up something here, he must be related to Carl Linders, who is escaping with the woman. And as with all these books about future societies, the people who are in control have great names for themselves, like monitors and whatever. And this one, the bad slang name for the people that they don't like, they look down upon, and that they use them in service to them, they call the Wets. So just a derogatory term. So this Damien Linders is talking to the old man. He says, Prometheus, you've not yet finished your tale of the old days, the days before the plague. And Prometheus says, the tale's not a pleasant one for me, Damien. I was only 19 when the plague first struck our farms. The plague destroyed all growing things and changed the remains into twisted, monstrous plants, the plants you see outside. It took only one season for the famine to begin, only another month for 3 million to die. It says only the cities with their hydroponic gardens were able to survive, and even there, the taste of disaster was most bitter, for there were crowds. God, how there were crowds. Society crumpled under the weight of its people, and from the wreckage there rose a new leader, the Guardian. It was me who established a system. It was he who established a system of honor. It was he who ordered the creation of the Wets. The Wets, humans chosen by lottery. Humans who were then surgically adapted for life in the dismal, fetid swamps. Wets, whose lives became miserable nightmares. Wets, like you and me, who are to service the machines which run the cities. Machines which support the madman who've destroyed us. The madmen who've destroyed us. And Damien says, why Prometheus? Why couldn't I have been my brother Carl? Why was this burden given to me? And Prometheus responds, to make you strong, Damien. To make you strong. Alright, so the story's heating up. And again, you see the dynamic between the two societies. One designated as less than the other. One designated as a society meant to serve and as a society meant to be served. And the tales are all the same. There's always a leader or a group that's a leader that is making the rules that best set up society, even the ones who are profiting from the downtrodden, that still puts them above everybody else. All right, on our next page, we are back to Carl Linders and the woman running, and it says, and now we return to Carl Linders as he fumbles with the doors to a rocket shuttle bay. And you see the woman screaming, please, we've got to have a craft. It's urgent, so terribly. And the guy says, sorry, miss, but I have my orders. And Carl says, don't argue with the guy, Christine. My blade will do the talking, like so. And Carl runs him through with the blade, an unarmed man. And Christine says, Carl, no. You don't have to kill him. And he goes, Christine, if we stay here, we die. You're my chosen chambermaid, but you can stay or come as you please. Which will it be? And she says, I love you, Carl. I'll come. And you see outside the chamber, you see some people trying to shoot their way in the city's guards. And it says, move, you damned idiots. That pair have killed 3 of us. Do you want them to get away? Move. And then as they enter, you see the rocket ship taking off. And you see one of the guards saying, the fools, we've lost them, but they've lost themselves. Without respirators in the swamps, they're lizard bait. And then we go to our next page, and you see the rocket ship over the swamps. And it says, propelled like a seed from a crushed fruit, the rocket shuttle arcs high over the mist-gray wash of the swamps. And you see Carl speaking to Christine. Shut up, Chris. What we did was our only choice. You'd have become a wet with me? That's the law. Admit that flight was our only option. She says, but Carl, where can we go? Not to another city. It would only be the same thing. What will we do? And then you see an explosion on the ship, and you see Carl saying, seems the point is meaningless, Chris. The gyro's cooked out. Ship's gyro's cooked out. She screams, Carl, as the ship plummets. And we see the ship crashing, and then we see them both laying down. And you hear a voice off panel says, they are alive, brothers. Give them breath. Take them to the council. And you see helmets fastened over their heads so they can breathe in the swamps. And it says, and soon, in the council of the Wets. And it says, one guy, Damien's talking to Prometheus. He says, Prometheus, these tribunes turn my, excuse me. It says, Prometheus, these tribunes turn my stomach cold. Must we attend? And Prometheus responds to Damien, as a chieftain's son, Damien, you must appear at all such functions, especially the least pleasant. And then you see Carl in the foreground going, Damien? And Damien runs up to him and goes, what? Carl? What is this? And one of the council leaders says, you know these people, Brother Linders? So, quick look. And our tale is heating up as the two brothers have met, both from the different ends of society. And then we move on. And it says, know them? The male is my two brother. What are the charges against them? And this is Damien speaking. And his brother Carl speaks up. Damien, they're mad. They're going to try us for all the crimes of mankind. And one of the council people says, yes, it's true. As is our custom, any city man found on our land is met with the following accusations. That the human race did willfully destroy its environment and make it uninhabitable for a normal man. That it did willfully create a species of freaks to support its dying existence. But why go on? You know the charges as well as I. And you see Carl appealing to his brother again. Damien, you can't let them do it. Not to your brother. And to which Damien says, my mind spins. Never before was there need to question the customs, Prometheus. What shall I do? And Prometheus says, you must do what you must do. And then Damien says, then he will not die. To my side, Carl, and your mate with you. And the council says, what does this mean, Damien? And Damien says, it's a choice not easily made, Judge, but one I must stand by against all foes, even if foe be friend. Run, Carl, run. And you see him stabbing a guy to defend his brother as he's being approached with swords by other people. Now they're on the run, and you see Carl and Christine in the front, leaving Damien to fight as they make a break for it. And it says, and they run in a flight that seems to have become their life. And you see Damien fighting in the back saying, forgive me, brothers, but it's the only way. Then we go to the next panel where it's one of the judges talking to Prometheus. It says, quick moments pass, and even as the trio raced from the scene, and you see the judge say, why? Why did he do it? And Prometheus says, he needs this soul journey. It will make him a man and give him courage later to do what he has to. His words were true. It's the only way. And then it says, hours, days, time seems to melt and run together until the past becomes present and the present becomes a nightmare. And you see Christine scream, please, can't we stop? So hungry. And Damien says, all right, at least we're still alive. We'll make it okay. Eh, Carl? And Carl's all leaning against a tree stump, and Damien reaches out to touch him and lift him up. And you see this hatred in the face of his brother Carl. It says, take your filthy, wet hand off me. And you see the surprise in Damien's face, who just defended his brother's life. And Carl says, well, what did you expect? Punishment for dueling is an adaptation. I ran because I thought disgusted me, just as you disgust me. You're nothing but a half-man, a foul-smelling mutant, inhuman scum, and just completely unthankful for his life being spared by his brother. And it says, but this time you go too far, Carl Linders, for your brother is not the weakling you'd thought. And Damien draws his sword. He says, put up your sword, Carl. Put up your sword. At which Carl backpedals instantly. What? No, Damien, my brother. And all of a sudden, Carl's good enough to, Damien's good enough to be his brother again when his life is threatened once again. So we'll show that. And we're seeing that Carl Linders truly is a coward of a man who cares only for his life and shuns everyone else around him as if they are less than him. So as we turn to the final page of our tale, it says, a brief flurry of glittering steel, and then, brother, no more, screams Damien as his sword runs his brother's through his stomach. And you have Christine in the background watching the fight. And the scripted text says, and so it ends, as the eternal battle between the privileged and the persecuted must ever end in death. And the kind of man who'd create the bog dies in the bog. And you see Christine say he never understood that he couldn't always get away. He always ran. And then Damien says, no more running, Christine. And she turns to Damien. She says, Damien, I'm alone now. I've never been alone before, Damien. Say something, please. And we go to descriptive text, and it says, but there is no need for words, no need to state the obvious, that for all their loneliness, the two can never truly reach across the gulf of their identities. And then we end with the final page in the shot with them arm in arm, and you see the device on Damien's chest. Part of the way he was augmented by society so he could work for them to keep their city operating and to breathe the air of the swamp. And her in her helmet, a mark of the society that she came from. And then just the end of our tale, again, by Jerry Conway and Gray Morrow, sorry. Just a great, fun little tale, a nice tale to pass, and in a time period where they seem generally concerned about what would happen in the future if everything was gone. It certainly is still a concern today, just not on the fantastical level that it inspired their imaginations and in their storytelling. And these stories are fun, and it always shows the breakdown of people on both sides. There's a lot of moral gray area when it comes to it, and a lot of it's just out of the need to survive. But these tales are always kind of fascinating to me for that. And but let me know what you think in the comments below. I give the art in this tale an A+ for sure. Beautiful art. The story itself, although nothing new, had established itself as kind of its own thing. So we're going to give the story a B+. It's certainly nothing new, but it's told adeptly and it's told well. And it sets up the world succinctly, quickly, and moves you throughout the tale with a good pace. So overall, we're going to give the combined product, art, storytelling, we're going to give it an A. And but that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed this tale, and until next time, keep it casual.